Hey guys, welcome back to ConExpo 2023. I'm your host, Rick Valka with Diesel and Iron. We're about to start talking about some filtration. The man to the right,
Brian Furness with Diesel and Iron Productions. Thank you for having us out here. Happy to be here. And here at the end of the table, we have Ivan. You want to introduce yourself, sir?
Yeah, I'm Ivan Sheffield. I'm with Desiccant Corporation.
And what is Desiccant Corporation? What do you guys do?
Well, main thing is extending life of equipment. We do the holistic approach to filtration. We invented the Desiccant breather, and that protects all the reservoirs and the head spaces and everything. We prevent contamination with our Desiccant breathers and with our filtration of. It helps remove contaminants from systems.
So when you say a holistic approach, we're not talking with various herbs and spices.
No.
We're talking from we have an entire solution standpoint.
Right. In other words, from the time the fluid actually leaves the refinery till it gets used in a reservoir, every time you touch that fluid, you get contamination in it.
Okay.
So contamination needs to be removed. And that's what Chevron IsoClean sets forth, is that you need to keep it clean, get it clean, and keep it clean all the time.
And so how do you guys keep oil clean?
Well, one way is with ISO standards, which we have a measurement. And what we do is we run the actual particle count or the sample through a particle counter, and we get what we call an ISO 4406 code, which tells you how many particles of contamination is in that sample. And then we figure out the filtration that's needed for that. Now, on the Desiccant breather side, it protects the head space of the reservoirs, and it also has a filter in it. So it protects the particulate getting in, and it protects the moisture and everything, and it helps remove the moisture too.
So I'm a dumb dirt guy, really quick.
Okay.
What is a Desiccant breather?
Desiccant breather is a breather that's put together with a space with a filter, 3-micron filter on the bottom filter pad. And then as the air goes through the breather, it goes through Desiccant beads. So it pulls out the moisture.
Interesting.
And you can actually tell from a Desiccant breather whether the air is moist from the outside moving in or from the system moving out.
Really?
So that's the wonderful thing about Desiccant breathers. And ours are top line because we use the best material, but also we got check valves on ours.
Really?
So that's really an extra protection.
So how's the check valve even come into play on something like this?
It stops the flow whenever after all the flow goes in, it doesn't let it go back out except through a certain channel. So the breathers are built in a particular way so that the air can go in, protection, and air can go out with protection.
So where would you even find this kind of filtration at? Is it on equipment, dams?
Mostly reservoirs. It can be put in anywhere that you're storing fluids or hydraulic oil. You can put it anywhere where you have an opening that the reservoirs and everything else are, attended to.
So this could go on my 55-gallon barrel out back of the shop,
yes.
all the way up to my 10,000-gallon huge reservoir out back of the shop.
It can go on anything that protects fluid.
Now, can you over-filter oil?
No. Now, there's some people that it depends on how the oil is being used. Let's just say that you've got oil and you overheat it.
Okay.
You have additives that could become part of that filtration process and it could pull it out. It could. But if you have a really oil that stays within temperature, you doesn't have any moisture get into it, and it really, you keep everything clean, it will not remove the additives. But we're still looking at it. We're still studying it. Some people go down to a real fine micron, and if there's any upset in the system, you might remove it, but I doubt it.
So how's this filtration and IsoClean really go hand in hand? Because can't I just dump some samples out through some filters and IsoClean it and we're good to go?
Not really, because
like I said, we're dumb
lot.
dirt guys.
Okay. Whenever you're formulating your oil, what they do is they formulate it, they get it to a certain level, and then they clean it.
Yeah.
And whenever it's clean the first time, IsoClean not only does one step, it does many steps. But once you get the oil cleaning, you have to keep it clean. So let's say you transfer it. You have transfer containers that you actually have filters on. And so you can transfer that. You also have transfer filtration, like a drum topper. You're also talking about a skid. You can have a skid if it's a big reservoir. You can have a filter cart. And what you do is you have quick disconnects on those, so you don't get a lot of dirt in them. Whenever they're unhooked, you have a cap you can put on it so you don't get dirt all around it. One of my favorite stories is I used to work in an assessment factory where people would send back contamination that are parts that had been contaminated, and the guy sent a motor back. And he said, we just threw that motor in, the pump was going, and the pump failed. Said, can you tell us why? So we took it apart, started looking inside it, and there's a wasp nest.
Really?
Wow.
So guess where the wasp nest come from? The hose. I asked him, I said, do you have all your hoses and caps and everything? He said, well, not really. I said, well, that might have been your problem, because what happens is they go inside the hose and build a nest. And then a maintenance guy will grab a hose, throw it on to a new system or a new pump or something, turn it on, and it just shoots it right in there.
Interesting.
So you're telling me we should be trying to plug hoses, keeping everything clean.
Everything. In
Now,
other words, it's an overall look at filtration.
so if I'm going to pull an oil sample or do an oil change, should I run it through a filtration system before I ship it back?
No. In other words, you want to know how dirty the system is. You want to know, like you take your ISO 4406, you take your oil sample, you would like to know just exactly how dirty that system is, or the oil condition whenever you take it. So what we normally do is we take it off of a tap, which is a sample port. We take it off of there, we bleed it first, then we take the sample in a clean bottle, and then you can run it through your particle counter on site, or you can ship it away. And if you ship it away, expect a few, weeks or something, or a week. And as soon as it gets back, then you'll know the particle count. You can also do a spectral analysis on the fluid. Spectral analysis will tell you what wear debris is in there, how much, how many parts per million you have of water or an RH level. There's a lot of different levels that you can get into ISO and making sure that you meet a standard.
So isn't this why we have like oil filters and coolant filters on the motors?
You make filters, you make it to protection. That's exactly right. That's why you buy. But one thing you got to remember, not everything's created equal.
I was going to say, so why are we worried so hard? Because this is where I go. Is why am I worried so hard about filtering this oil so many times in process, in transition to getting into my equipment when I got an oil filter on the dang thing?
Right.
Okay, let's say that what if the system was built with a 12 micron protection and you really need a 3? You have to look at the holistic approach, which I'm talking about looking at everything. And one of the things that we do is look at the lowest system clearance that you've got in the system. So let's say the lowest system is a 2.5 micron. Then you got a servo valve that's 2.5 or 3 micron. You're not wanting a 12 or a 25 micron element on that to protect it. Let's use an engine. Sometimes an engine, different parts, the oil filter might be a 20 micron element. Might be a spin-on that's a 20 micron. You're protecting what you need to protect.
Sure.
Now we're getting more technical, we're learning more stuff. Now they build a lot of spin-ons with 8 micron protection.
Oh, wow.
So you're getting the oil cleaner, and the oil gets cleaner, the clearances get tighter, the oil's cleaner, and it lasts longer.
Interesting.
So you guys are more for the end user.
We use a lot. Everybody that uses oil uses us, and we're mostly servicing the end user.
So we've talked a lot over the last couple of days about oil filtration, and really when we've talked about that, we're talking about contaminants, but from particles. But you're bringing up water.
Water
with the
is a
Desiccant
contaminant.
filters. Why is water an issue?
Because water is a contaminant. It doesn't belong in there. It
But-
can
but
cause
what's bad
varnish.
ab-
It can cause varnish.
What is varnish?
Varnish is whenever there's a breakdown in the chemical balance of the oil.
Okay.
So whenever you lift up a reservoir and you see a brown tint and a brownish color, that's varnish. And we have varnish removal. It's easy to get varnish out. You can do it by chemical. Some people use chemical processes. Some use electrical processes. But whenever you're looking at anything, we quote it real easy. Anything that's not supposed to be in that oiling system is a contaminant.
Interesting.
So it's water, dirt,
Anything.
gas, everything. Yeah.
So we have a couple diesel motors that we're familiar with, and we service them once in a while. You got fuel filters and you got fuel water separators. Why don't we just have a oil water separator?
They do exist. A lot of them are on industrial.
Didn't even know that.
Yeah, because in other words, some people like a dehydrator. Let's say that you have a big system, 10,000 gallons, and you get water in it. What are you going to do? No small element is going to pull out all of that water. So what you have is a dehydrator. Now the dehydrator not only treats and removes the moisture, and it can get it below 100 parts per million. Let's say you start off at 10,000 parts per million and you run it, and the continuously it's pulling out the moisture, and you get below 50 parts per million. You've got the water out. What you're going to do now is you've got to realize that all of those dehydrators have filters on them. So they're removing the particulate plus the water.
Interesting.
So then you run it through a polishing filter, and it really takes care of it. And what helps is that Desiccant breather helps the water from getting in there in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you could give advice to any kind of contractors or end users, what would it be for their lubricants? Maybe how to store them.
Store them. You always have drum toppers where you can put a cover on it. Always leave them sealed. Always use a transfer. Whenever you're talking about transfer, you always want to make sure the transfer is in a clean container.
Can we just use that container for every kind of oil and lubricant?
Old
no,
coffee
no,
can.
you get they're color coded.
Okay.
In our industry, we believe in color coding because if you set up a lube room
Yep.
in a, let's just say in a paper mill or a steel mill, you set up a lube room. Every lube, every oil has its own color. And then you can match all of your containers with that same color with the same heading on it. In other words, you identify everything. You do not want to cross-contaminate. One of the things is, and it's one of the ones that most people don't pay attention to, contamination is anything that does not belong in there. The wrong fluid is contamination. So if you put the wrong, let's just say that you're using an SAE 46, VG 46, and you put 56 or you put some 66 or an 86 in there, you've got a problem. You've put the wrong fluid in the wrong system.
Well, but that's just a quick math problem to figure out what fraction of our number that we
You
change.
just got to add some water and dilute it down.
That's
right.
But then you've got wrong fluid in the wrong reservoir, and you've got it protecting, and it's ruining your system.
You're telling me I can't take that little bit of 66, add a little bit of 32, and it brings her right back
no,
down.
No, it
Can't
will
find
not work that
common
way.
ground.
And you also have all the additives that you have in every oil package. It's not the same in every oil. So what if you put some terrible stuff in your system, and then you have to dump it all out and start all over?
Yeah,
That's
it's very
what's really
costly.
bad. Very costly.
So let's spice it up a little bit.
Okay.
We're not going to use any names because we're not that kind of show. What's the worst thing you've seen? When you walked up on a job, you just go, guys, come on.
Well, probably the worst thing I've seen is in some paper mills
Okay?
because it's water, and it's very bad, and there's a lot of dehydrators in there.
Okay.
And we have open systems and closed systems. A lot of the closed systems have breathers on them, which do a great job. You replace the breather more, but it does the job for you. The thing that on this paper mill, they had the reservoir open. Now, when you're talking about a reservoir being open in a paper mill, water, dirt, air, travel, terrible. Well, I asked the guy that's the maintenance man if he would pull me a sample. So he goes and he pulls a jug out of the trash can,
Yeah.
takes his rag,
Absolutely.
wipes it out,
Came right out of the back pocket, didn't it?
Perfect.
Absolutely. Got that pocket lint on it.
wipes out the jug.
Yep.
The jug's been cut off. It's a gallon jug. It's been cut off.
So it fits
He-
good.
Yep.
So it fits good. He has his bottle. Okay. He has his clean bottle to send out the oil sample.
So we're almost there.
We're almost there.
He's got the right idea.
Right. He doesn't have to lift up the reservoir. He looks over. The reservoir's already open.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So-
That's
Ready.
time savings.
So then he reaches
Efficiency.
down with this half-gallon cut-open jug. He pulls out a sample and opens his bottle, lays it on top of the reservoir, pours the sample in, closes it, puts the wax paper on it, closes it, and sends it off.
So what was wrong with that?
I feel like that man had every tool right there at his disposal. He saved time by not having a lid on the oil. I mean, my man is efficient.
That's most of the industry, though, right?
I love
That's
it.
all of us.
I love it because let me tell you how you really pull a sample. First of all, you want that reservoir shut.
Okay.
The last place I would pull a sample is in the reservoir. I would make sure it had a quick disconnect or a sample or a sample port on it so we can pull it through a sampling hose. And that way you could take the volume, run it through the hose, get it clean first, then you can pull your sample. If we had to pull it from the reservoir, I would hope the reservoir would have been closed. Then we open it, take a tube and run down halfway of the fluid. So let's say that you've got a reservoir that's 18 inches and you've only got 9 inches of fluid. It doesn't do any good to pull a sample at 9 inches. You have to go half of the 9 inches.
You kind of want it right out of the middle there.
The middle, right where it's turning.
Sure.
And so you pull the sample. You have a vampire kit or some kind of a kit. You can pull the sample. This is the last resort now, remember. You pull it. You put it in a clean bottle. You pull it straight from there, and it goes into the bottle. You don't have air. You don't have any contaminant around it. Then you send that bottle off.
So hang on a second here, because we have to bring this back full circle to our industry, which is the dirt industry.
Right.
I'm a lube tech. I'm out on the job site. Dust everywhere in the air.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying I can't just pop that bottle open, using my teeth,
I
get the
would
cap
not.
off of it,
I would not.
stick it up under there? What's the problem
Let
here?
me ask you a question.
Yes,
no matter
sir.
where you work, what's the one thing that separates you from everybody else in the industry?
Quality of work you do?
No.
Oh,
Work ethic.
Work ethic and knowledge.
Oh, there you go.
Standards that cover all of these topics that we've been talking is knowledge about how to do stuff and how to do it properly.
Yes.
Just like Chevron's ISO Clean program, it covers standards.
Sure.
It covers the way you do it properly. It tells you to keep it clean, and it goes through the steps to keep it clean. That's what we do at Desiccant. I've been in the industry. I started in 1984 in filtration. I started in National Fluid Power, started working there on standards in 1993. Right now, I've just stayed in standards work. I love them. It teaches you the right way to do stuff. You have education. We take you out there in the middle of the dirt yard and we show you how to work at it. We show you how to open it, how to pull the sample. In other words, there's a standard that covers all that.
Yes.
So what we do is we take all the standards, and I've been in standards that now I'm the TC 131 chairman, which is Fluid Power Worldwide. But I'm also filters and contamination, which is TC 131 SC6. The numbers don't mean anything, but what do we do with those numbers? Well, we do filtration. Every filter has to meet a standard. We do education. Whenever we're talking about standards, and we have a talk this morning on the IFB, and we talk about standards and how it works with contamination control. That's the key, working everything with knowledge. Knowledge is power. And whenever you put the right knowledge in place, then you add to the bottom line.
I will say, over the last 3 or 4 days, we've gotten a fantastic education on lubricants and analysis and cleanliness and how to just be better at taking care of your equipment. And it really has occurred to me over the last couple of days just how ignorant a lot of the industry is in this area. Just we've never received that education. We've never gone out of our way to receive that education because, well, Granddad I used to change oil with Granddad all the time. You go out there and you lay in the dirt underneath the machine. You drain her out. You put some new stuff in the top that's a lot less black than the stuff that came out the bottom, and by golly, we're good to go.
There was a smart man by the name of Einstein.
Yes, sir.
And he said, if you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got.
That's a pretty good line.
So let me tell you, there's always a chance to improve on what you've been doing.
Yeah.
And knowledge is power. Knowledge is money.
Yeah.
If you figure out that you don't have to, can I give you a real world example?
Oh, absolutely.
We had an excavator, and it was getting rebuilt twice a year. We went in and we measured what the ISO code was. We just did a quick sample.
And the ISO code, just to bring it back down to our how clean is it? is kind of the ISO code.
That's exactly. It tells
Okay.
you how many particles are there.
Perfect.
And it's measuring the 4, 6, and 14 microns.
Okay.
Okay, so we actually measured it. It was like a 23. These are each code represents the dirt. So you got a 23, 20, 18. We looked at it. We said, why don't we put on some bypass filtration just to see what it does with it? So we hooked up bypass filtration. We ran about a 8 to 10 micron element in it.
Okay.
And after running it for, I think we waited about 3 or 4 weeks. We measured it. It was down to an 18, 17, 15.
So when those numbers go down, we got way cleaner.
Right. All the ISO codes are set up that every time you go up in a code, you double your dirt.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So,
we
a
went-
little drop is actually, in numbers,
It's
is a big
huge,
drop in cleanliness.
Huge drop.
Interesting.
So we actually, with the drop in ISO codes, we took 8 times the dirt out of the system.
Wow.
That's impressive.
They were using and charging about $159,000 per rebuild
Oh, twice a year?
twice a year.
Oh,
That ain't bad.
That's not too bad when you're doing a lot of work.
I need your pocketbook.
But guess what? $109,000 were saved by cleaning up the fluid.
Wow.
That is impressive.
That's the proof in the pudding.
And let's talk, how much did they realistically spend in that filtration?
Right, probably $300, $400.
So $300 to $400
Just saved.
invested in filtration saved them over realistically $300,000 a year.
That's right.
In rebuilds.
That's not even 10%.
If you take it to one, let's say that they were doing it one time.
Yeah.
109,000 added to a bottom line. If you've got a customer out there and they are looking at that, they're going, well, let me look at my filtration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me try to get it cleaner.
Absolutely.
And the whole point is, I say it all my life, cleaner's better.
Yes.
The lower the ISO code, the better.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons we've really, we're an approved vendor in the ISO Clean program with Chevron. We're partners because they believe in keeping it clean. Desiccant teaches keeping it clean. We use our Desiccant, we don't really just do Desiccant and filtration. We have systems. We have components.
Yeah.
We have a lot of different types of systems that help keep stuff clean and monitoring. We have a whole monitoring section.
Wow.
So what I'm saying is we are bought into this idea that keep it clean and it'll last longer. Keep it clean and it'll make you more money.
Absolutely.
So, how many years have you been in the industry?
I started out in filtration actually filling end caps with glue with a glue bottle. And that was in 1984. So
Wow.
I'm 39 years in filtration this year.
So, in the 39 years, what was just the biggest change you've seen from start to finish today?
Knowledge and doing things better.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting on board with keeping oil clean. Everybody's buying into this concept, and it's a concept that works.
Yeah.
So I use my experience in ISO standards as a educational platform saying, look, all we got to do is take 2 or 3 of these filters, check them out, make sure they work right, make sure they do the job, and then you'll notice your ISO codes going down. Once I hit a nice level, let's go one code cleaner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect.
Let's do one code cleaner.
Yeah.
Okay, let's change the micron rating on the filter. Let's get one code cleaner.
Yeah.
So it's all back to the holistic approach to filtration, and that covers a whole wide realm of possibilities.
So I'm going to hit you with a totally different question.
Okay.
I appreciate all the knowledge you dropped here today.
Okay.
You've been at the show for 3 or 4 days now.
Right.
What stuck out to you? You personally, not just overall, but you personally, what's really stuck out that's been cool this year?
Technology.
Expound
Well,
on that. What about it?
Okay. Everything's going to smarter systems.
Yes.
You can read it better. You
Yeah.
can read it from afar away.
Yeah.
You can have things that talk to your phone.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I've noticed, and a lot of times you can't see the trees for the forest. You can't see what you're looking at.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of like finding a needle in a haystack. There are so many vendors here. There are so many suppliers here. You get caught up in not knowing what you're looking for. You're just amazed. But if you actually take one item like information transfer, there are so many in, let's just say, filtration. there's so many people here at the show that are showing new products that transfer knowledge.
Yes.
You can walk up and use your phone to check and see how much pressure's on a system. You can tell the water content on the system. You can take your phone and know if you got to change your filter or not.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so knowledge and the technical jump that I've seen in my lifetime, you've got to understand it's been a long road, but at this show this time, I've seen more technical. And it's not technical for the big boys. It's technical for the guys that cut down the trees. It's technical for the guys that move the dirt.
It is. And that's, our industry has been so
100%.
slow to latch on to technology, and we've needed it for so long. And I agree. It is very apparent
It's for
here.
everybody.
Technology is here for our industry, and it's
That's
changing rapidly.
Fast.
Real quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Ivan, thanks again for coming on. We appreciate it.
No problem. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed this.
Great.
Yeah, this is great. So, and for everybody watching, make sure you check back tomorrow. We are going to go live a lot earlier tomorrow. We're going live at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So be sure you check back by. If you're at ConExpo, swing by. Come see us at the Chevron booth. We'll catch you guys tomorrow.
Thanks.